an article that we found that talked about, I think it was the state of Wisconsin, or maybe it was a particular city. I don't know for sure. But basically, they were pretty much establishing a law that parents would begin to be responsible for their children financially for bullying. So, if they were intimidating a kid, bullying a kid, and found guilty of doing so once, they would be fined one amount, and if they were found doing it repeatedly, it would be another amount. So, what do you guys think about that law? Do you think that parents should be fined? Do you think that it's too extreme of a law? What do you think, Monica?
I think that's a good idea, especially in cases like the last one. If you know your kids are bad, and most people are in denial, then you need to be responsible for their badness. I think that would help. Here's $500,000 fine. I know that's exaggerating. But, I mean, if you know your kids are bad and you're going to be fined for their misbehaving, it's going to make you step up and parent a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's my take.
Sharice?
I don't agree with the parents being fined for their kids bullying, because you can teach your children all the right ways to act and to treat people and the right morals and biblical principles, and they will go right out and do just the opposite. You can punish them when you find out what they've done, and they still can continue to go the other way. So I don't necessarily think it's a good idea or a proper solution to stop bullying, because I know my parents taught me the right way to do things, and I did the opposite a lot of times. So that wasn't their fault. It was the choice that I made. That's my take.
Cheryl, your take?
I do think that parents need to be held responsible, but I don't think that is going to make a big difference in the epidemic of bullying, because I think that it's just so ongoing, and parents can't control what happens at school. So I don't think that is like Cherie said. I don't think that is a resolution or a solution, whichever one fits better. Whatever. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that when I was a teacher, I tried to create an environment in my classroom where they felt that they were a community and where they protected each other. So sometimes we would have lunch in the classroom, and we would just do lunch bunch and just put all the desks in like a square, and we wouldn't turn on the TV. We would just talk like a family dinner. That created a different kind of environment in my classroom, to where if one of them shared something that wasn't going to leave the classroom, if somebody outside of our class bothered one of them, they would stick up for each other. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of think it's about building community outside of the home, and I don't think teachers have enough time to do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I am kind of on the fence. On one hand, I think that it is a good thing for parents to be held accountable, and usually when you are affecting someone's pocketbook, that's when you get a message across. So I do, get where they're going with that. On the other hand, I do kind of feel like, yeah, like what Sharice was saying, as a parent, you can teach your children, as best as you can, and instill in them all the morals and everything. But, when they're in school, they're facing, different peer pressures, and they want to be popular. They want to be liked. So they do things to get attention that maybe they're not getting at home, or to fit in or whatever. To me, it is kind of one of those things, and I guess this kind of piggybacks a little bit off of what Cheryl was saying. I think this is one of those things that comes down to, everyone talks about education and how it's not just, the responsibility of the teacher, but it really is a village or a community thing. I think the same thing can apply to bullying. Yeah, you can teach your child about not to bully, but I think it takes the parents, it takes the teachers, it takes the child kind of understanding. And I think that, what Cheryl was saying what she would do in her class, really kind of building that family kind of feel in her class. That's great. I think that would kind of, in my opinion, would seem like that would be something to kind of help, stop that type of behavior.
Ooh, maybe that should
What
be
are
my cash cow. Maybe I should go around the nation teaching these people to make these children love it.
Oh yes, girl.
How
Across the nation, reaching,
I
teaching,
have to
preaching.
digress because I didn't hear you say the bullying part. I was so stuck on them bad kids decorating that man's house. I was on the road. Yes, get him. However, in the case of bullying, you really can't, because you're, like you said, your kids do what they're gonna do outside of your house. However, I feel like bullying is kind of a learned behavior to some degree, and a lot of kids that are bullies are usually in a home where they experience some type of either bullying or verbal abuse or something like that, and they take that outside of the home and they reflect that on the weaker links that they come across in school. So it's a two-edged sword there.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I agree.
Since bullying is such a huge problem right now, not just face to face, but over social media, over the phone, everything. I mean, it should be something that's taught, workshops that are given, just like we have driver's ed, we have sex ed, we know all about drugs and all that. Bullying may be something they need to add to the curriculum in health or whatever, and let people know what it can cause, other people to do to themselves when they're being bullied.
Here's the problem. School counselors, usually if they have enough funding, they have different programs, and one of the programs that I was familiar with when I was in the school system is called Second Steps. And the school counselor would come in and do these social, I can't remember the correct terminology, but anyway, it taught social interaction. It taught what was appropriate and what wasn't appropriate. But the thing is, that is once a week for 20 minutes. So even if it is in the curriculum, if it's not continuous and consistent, I hate to say it, but we up a creek.
But you said once a week?
Once a week, if that.
That's pretty good. Once a week is better than nothing.
But it's usually it's only one counselor in the school, and you got kindergarten, in an elementary school, you got kindergarten through fifth grade. It's 5 kindergarten classes. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that, once a week. Usually, it was like once a month. And you just kind of had to you had to incorporate it into your lesson plans, which you don't really have time to do because these people got you teaching all this crazy stuff that ain't got nothing to do with life. That's why Cheryl is not teaching, huh?
Maybe Cheryl should get back into it though, huh?
If you can
good. Right.
I'm cool.
Oh Lord. Well, any comments on this topic?
Oh, honey. Mrs. Chocolate 7790. What do those 7790 stand for, Mrs. Chocolate?
Okay. Is it a birthday?
Her birthday, probably.
7790. I forgot people are younger than me.
Yeah, that throws me off sometimes too when I see a 90.
I saw 7790, so I don't know. That's why I'm not a teacher, and I just deal with kids to where I know their parents and grandparents. Honey, yeah, I wouldn't encourage anybody to be a teacher. Sorry. Punky Funky Babs said, I think morals have not been taught to kids like normal standards and respect, period. True. That's right, Sharice. I don't know what Mama Thompson was talking about, but I just wanted to say it. Geraldine said, kudos to all the parents out there doing the right thing by their children. And then she said, first of all, how do you find somebody for bullying, let alone the parents? Mama Thompson said, I agree with that law. I hate bullying because I've experienced it with my grandson. Kids can be so cruel. That's so true. Secondly, Geraldine says, she is paragraphing it. secondly, how are the amounts determined for the fines? Girl, we don't know.
Oh, well, in this particular town in Wisconsin, the first offense was $117, and every offense after that was like $144 or something like that.
What? That's
No, it
crazy.
was like 177, I think, Sharice.
The second time?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So, Geraldine says, Shari, you did throw out a good point there. Money does provide leverage in many situations.
Dang.
And then Mama Thompson said, kids are killing themselves from being bullied, and that's
Exactly.
sad.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick about that? I think that people really do not process the fact that death is it on earth. And suicide to some people, I think, is a temporary solution to a problem that they've had for a long time. But it's not temporary. Like, why don't you just run away or something? Go take your backpack and go to your friend's house. Like, what are you doing? Suicide is so common now. My sister teaches suicide prevention. Like, she's trained in suicide prevention because suicide is so common now. Y'all remember when suicide wasn't common?
No, really.
Like,
Well,
did you
you know
know
what?
when you were in school? Did you know a whole lot of people that committed suicide?
Actually, I knew a couple of people. One of my really good friends, right after we graduated high school, he committed suicide. And, like, it really messed a lot of us up. Because, I mean, one reason was because we had no idea. Like, every time we saw him, you know, he was always cracking jokes. Like, he was just a funny guy, you know, so he was always cracking jokes. He was always making people laugh. So it was just a shock to us because he was always so happy and jovial, you know, we didn't know what was going on in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Not to put all my business in the streets, but I had 2 suicide attempts, and at the moment, you're not thinking about anything but what's causing you pain and how much you want it to end.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a temporary fix to a problem, but you don't see it that way at the time. You just are like, I want this over, and the best way to end it for me is to just end my life, because then I'll have to deal with it ever again. You don't think about the people it affects. And I'm a mom. I didn't think about that at the time. I just was like, I want everything to just end. And maybe my son will be better off if I'm not here, because he's got my he's got his grandma, he's got his dad. But once I snapped out of it, I look back and I'm like, what were you thinking? Like, really? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I kind of think that it's hard to, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say judge, you know, that type of thing, because you don't know what people are going through, you know what I mean? And what a situation that you feel might be light, or something that you feel you can just get over it, or just do this or do that, they may not feel that way, you know, and they may not have the tools or the resources, you know, around them for them to get some of those frustrations out, or anyone to talk to. So yeah, I can't really say, because again, that's one of those things where that is you can't talk about someone when you haven't been in their shoes and you haven't experienced what they have experienced.
Monica, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know. Whew, that just touched me, honey.
Sometimes people feel hopeless, like there's no other solution. There's no way out.
I didn't quite get to that point, but I got very, very depressed, where I locked myself in my house. I changed my garage code so my sister couldn't get in my house, because she lived around the corner from me. She broke in my back door, and my parents drove 3 hours because I cut my phone off, and these ladies know she doesn't cut her phone off. Everything. I tried to cut myself off from the world, I was like literally not going to work. It was bad, but I'm glad that I had a support system that it didn't go that next step.
Yeah.
Okay,
And just to
I'm
throw
done.
this out there really quick, if you know somebody that's isolating that way, that's usually the first sign. If they're
Mhm.
like an outgoing person, I am probably one of the most outgoing, friendliest people. I think so, anyways. But somebody else might have another opinion.
No, you are.
If I start isolating myself, my sisters and them are usually on it because that's my first sign. I will isolate. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not doing anything, especially if I don't get dressed. If I'm sitting around in sweats and stuff for days, they're like, okay, what's wrong with you? Something is not right. You ain't put on an earring. Something is wrong. So that's more signs for everybody out there. So pay attention. Pay attention to that.
Definitely. I think we're going to move on, but before we do, I definitely think that this is a topic that we should discuss on a future show because for some reason, depression and suicide is really taboo when it comes to the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like to talk about, what's going on with us, and some people may view it as a weakness, but and even, this is Ladies Lounge, and I think as women, this is something that a lot of women do experience, with the responsibilities that they may have, whether it's being a single parent, or maybe being in an abusive relationship, or whatever it may be. But I definitely think that we all probably have some stories that we can share
Y'all
regarding
ain't
this
about to have
topic.
me out here crying. Mm-mm.
Your tears may help somebody else, Cheryl.
Yes,
Okay,
I
indeed.
know.
it's not about just you and me. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is true, because I definitely have a couple of stories that I could share about this topic, but I really feel like we need,
Whew, I do too.
yeah, we need another show where we can really talk about this, and yeah, like Sharice was saying, we could help one another out. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yep.
I
So
need somebody to hug me.
Hugs.
Take
yeah.
this. You feel this? Wrap your
Oh,
arms around yourself and squeeze, like Monique used to say.
oh yeah. She can wrap her arms around herself twice now.
Oh.